Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, YouTube. Today we are continuing again with our Bible reading. I am using the Scriptures translation. You can use whatever translation you have, but please read along. Don't take anyone's word for this. Read it for yourself. So, get your coffee, get your Bible, and let's read. Today we are beginning in Leviticus chapter 10. And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his fire holder and put fire in it, and put incense on it, and brought strange fire before Yahweh, which he had not commanded them. And fire came out from Yahweh and consumed them, and they died before Yahweh. Then Moshe said to Aaron, "This is what Yahweh spoke, saying, By those who come near me, let me be set apart, and before all the people let me be esteemed." And Aaron was silent. And Moshe called to Mishael and to Elstaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron, and said to them, "Come near, take your brothers from before the set-apart place out of the camp." So they came near and took them by their long shirts out of the camp, as Moshe had said. And Moshe said to Aaron and to Eleazar and to Ithamar his sons, "Do not unbind your heads, nor tear your garments, lest you die, and wrath come upon all the people. But let your brothers, all the house of Israel, bewail the burning which Yahweh has kindled. And do not go out from the door of the tent of appointment, lest you die, for the anointing oil of Yahweh is upon you." And they did according to the word of Moshe. And Yahweh spoke to Aaron, saying, "Do not drink wine or strong drink, you nor your sons with you, when you go into the tent of appointment, lest you die. A law forever throughout your generations, so as to make a distinction between the set apart and the profane, and between the unclean and the clean, and to teach the children of Israel all the laws which Yahweh had spoken to them by the hand of Moshe." And Moshe spoke to Aaron and to Eleazar and to Ithamar, his sons who were left, "Take the grain offering that is left over from the offerings made by fire to Yahweh, and eat it without leaven beside the slaughter place, for it is most set apart. And you shall eat it in a set apart place, because it is yours by law and your sons by law, of the offerings made by fire to Yahweh, for so I have been commanded. And the breast of the wave offering and the thigh of the contribution you eat in a clean place, you and your sons and your daughters with you, for they are yours by law, and your sons by law, which are given from the slaughterings of peace offerings of the children of Israel. The thigh of the contribution and the breast of the wave offering they bring with the offerings of fat made by fire, to bring as a wave offering before Yahweh. And it shall be yours and your sons with you by a law forever, as Yahweh had commanded." And Moshe diligently looked for the goat of the sin offering, and saw it was burned up. And he was wroth with Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron who were left, saying, "Why have you not eaten the sin offering in a set-apart place, since it is most set apart? And Elohim has given it to you to bear the crookedness of the congregation, to make atonement for them before Yahweh. See, its blood was not brought inside the set-apart place. You should have eaten it without fail in a set-apart place, as I have commanded." And Aaron said to Moshe, "See, today they have brought their sin offering and their ascending offering before Yahweh, and matters like these have come to me. If I had eaten the sin offering today, would it have been right in the eyes of Yahweh?" And when Moshe heard that, it was good in his eyes. So, they just get the tent of appointment set up, get everybody, the priests anointed, and Aaron's two sons go in, and they burned offerings they weren't supposed to. It doesn't say what they burned. It just says they brought strange fire before Yahweh, which he had not commanded them. I don't know what strange fire is, but obviously they weren't supposed to do that. And they paid the ultimate price for it. Chapter 11. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying to them, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, These are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatever has a split hoof, completely divided, chewing the cud, among the beasts you do eat. Only these you do not eat among those that chew the cud, or those that have a split hoof, the camel, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the rabbit, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the pig, though it has a split hoof, completely divided, yet does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you do not touch, they are unclean to you. These you do eat of all that are in the waters, any one that has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas or in the rivers, that you do eat. But all that have not fins and scales in the sea and the rivers, all that move in the waters, or any living being which is in the waters, they are abomination to you. They are an abomination to you. Of their flesh you do not eat, and their carcass you abominate. All that have not fins or scales in the waters are an abomination to you. And these you do abominate among the birds. They are not eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle and the vulture, and the black vulture, and the hawk, and the falcon after its kind. Every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the night hawk, and the seagull, and the hawk after its kind, and the little owl, and the fisher owl, and the great owl, and the white owl, and the pelican, and the carrion vulture, and the stork, and the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects that creep on all fours is an abomination to you. Only these you do eat of every flying insect that creeps on all fours, those which have jointed legs above their feet, with which to leap on the earth. These of them you do eat, the arbe locust after its kind, the solemn locust after its kind, and the hargal locust after its kind, and the hagab locust after its kind. But all other flying insects which have 4 feet are an abomination to you. And by these you are made unclean. Anyone touching the carcass of any of them is unclean until evening. And anyone picking up part of the carcass of any of them has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. Every beast that has a split hoof, not completely divided, or does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean. And whatever goes on its paws among all the creatures that go on all fours, those are unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean until evening. And he who picks up their carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. They are unclean to you. And these are unclean to you among the creeping creatures that creep on the earth, the mole, and the mouse, and the tortoise after its kind, and the gecko, and the land crocodile, and the sand reptile, and the sand lizard, and the chameleon. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Anyone who touches them when they are dead becomes unclean until evening. And whatever any of them in its dead state falls upon becomes unclean, whether it is any wooden object, or garment, or skin, or sack, any object in which work is done, it is put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening, then it shall be clean. Any earthen vessel into which any of them falls, whatever is in it becomes unclean, and you break it. Any of the food which might be eaten, on which water comes, becomes unclean, and any drink which might be drunk from it becomes unclean. And on whatever any of their carcass falls becomes unclean. An oven or cooking range, it is broken down. They are unclean, and are unclean to you. But a fountain or a well, a collection of water, is clean, but whatever touches their carcass is unclean. And when any of their carcass falls on any planting seed which is to be sown, it is clean. But when any water is put on the seed, and any part of any such carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. And when any of the beasts which are yours for food dies, he who touches its carcass becomes unclean until evening. And he who eats of its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And he who picks up its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And every swarming creature, the one that swarms on the earth, is an abomination. It is not eaten. Whatever crawls on its stomach, and whatever goes on all fours, and whatever has many feet among all the swarming creatures, the ones swarming on the earth, these you do not eat, for they are an abomination. Do not make yourselves abominable with any swarming creature, the one swarming, and do not make yourselves unclean with them, lest you be defiled by them. For I am Yahweh, your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart. And you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. And do not defile yourselves with any swarming creature, the one creeping on the earth. For I am Yahweh, who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim, to be your Elohim, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. This is the Torah of the beasts and the birds and every living being, the creeping creatures of the waters, and of every being that swarms on the earth, to make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the living creature that is eaten and the living creature that is not eaten. Dietary rules. Now, that I try to follow. Unfortunately, many of today's products have hidden things in there that you wouldn't think, but they're there, and it would make them unclean. We stopped eating pork and seafood. But it's amazing how many different products actually have pork in it. So, basically, make your own food at home. You might be surprised. There is a lot of pork and seafood and crushed up bugs and various other things in processed food that you may not know is in there. Read your ingredients, people. But that's a good rule. Whether you choose to live under these rules or not, you should read your ingredients and know what you're putting in your body. Chapter 12. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, When a woman has conceived and has given birth to a male, then she shall be unclean 7 days. As in the days of her monthly separation, she is unclean. And on the 8th day, the flesh of the foreskin is circumcised, and she remains in the blood of her cleansing 33 days. She does not touch whatever is set apart, and she does not come into the set apart place until the days of her cleansing are completed. But if she gives birth to a female child, then she shall be unclean for 2 weeks, as in her monthly separation, and she remains in the blood of her cleansing for 66 days. And when the days of her cleansing are completed, for a son or for a daughter, she brings to the priest a lamb, a year old, as an ascending offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove as a sin offering, to the door of the tent of appointment. And he shall bring it before Yahweh, and make atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the flow of her blood. This is the Torah for her who has given birth to a male or a female. And if she is not able to bring a lamb, then she shall bring 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, one as an ascending offering, and one as a sin offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her, and she shall be clean. So, yes, women in their monthly cycle are unclean. Unclean is not the same as sin. Unclean just means that you can't go into the temple, you can't, touch the priest. Now think about, back in those days, they didn't have modern day products to care for such things. So when they said unclean, like, you were literally unclean. And stuff that goes in the temple is supposed to be clean. So it doesn't mean that a woman is sinful because she has her monthly. It just means that she's not clean right now. So when she's done, then she'll be clean. And they brought offerings to the temple for all kinds of stuff. I never understood, though, the difference between how many days you're unclean for giving birth to a male versus a female. But I don't know everything. I don't even know a little bit compared to what the Father knows. So maybe one day he'll tell me, maybe not. But that is the end of the reading for today. Thanks for coming along. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please join us again next Saturday. May the Father bless you. Shalom.